No. Okay, should be now.
We'll call a meeting to order, special town board meeting, electors meeting, agenda. 2025 budget presentation and public hearing, followed by a special town elector meeting, which is followed by a special town board meeting. Thursday, November 14th, 2024, 6:00 p.m. at the Palmyra Eagle High School Community Center at 123 Burr Oak Street, Palmyra, Wisconsin. Certification of compliance with open meetings law.
Yes, we posted timely.
Is that door unlocked back there?
Yes.
Okay, roll call.
Gajewski,
Here.
Martins,
Here.
Sauter.
Here. There will be a public hearing regarding the proposed 2025 Town of Palmyra budget. Notice is hereby given that on Thursday, November 14th, 2024, at 6 p.m. at the Palmyra Eagle School Community Center, 123 Burr Oak Street, Palmyra, Wisconsin, 53156, that a public hearing on the 2025 proposed budget for the town of Palmyra in Jefferson County, Wisconsin, will be held. The purpose budget is available for inspection at 3 official posting sites and also on the Town of Palmyra website. News and notices, or by contacting the town clerk at 262-495-2049 or by email. The clerk's address is there. Now, before we get started on the presentation, clerk and Supervisor Gajewski, you got to make a statement there.
Thanks. Wanted everybody to know that the green ballot that you have has a typo in it. Good first start, right? The resolution also has the exact same typo in it. So I'm gonna, hopefully, I turn this guy on and it wants to play with it. So while I struggle with this, the typo that's written says 2.7%. The town is requesting that we exceed the levy by 27%.
27.524%.
The decimal point is in the wrong spot.
Frankie, take your back here is a little better, okay?
Understand. Just trying to get technology to play along with me. So the section that we're talking about is this right here. Slow down. 22.70524% is 27.524%. Same number as over here. It is 27.524%. The amount that the board requested, $145,000 to exceed the levy, is correct on the resolution. It is correct on the ballot. Both of these numbers were correct in the public posting, and both of those numbers were correct in the resolution that the board passed in October. These were printed out last night and today, and there was a typo. So we apologize for the confusion with that part. The dollar amount we are asking to exceed the levy is $145,000, okay? is correct. Again, the percentage that is listed should read 27.524%.
Any questions on that, people? Right now is the time to ask.
Does anybody not understand? Raise your hand, please, so we can explain it again.
Should we correct it ourselves? Or
If you would like to, for frame of reference, you are more than welcome to. 27.524.
Great, so everybody understands. And again, sorry for that.
Okay, before we go any further, I'm gonna make a statement now. I asked for microphones in here tonight, the second year in a row it didn't happen. Okay, so be respectful to others, we're gonna have to be quiet. I don't mean that bad, obviously, but some of us are a little older, including myself, I'm sure in the back of the room.
you're gonna have to speak up.
Okay, well, I'll start. Remember that, Josh? Okay, I'm gonna bring you up to speed. First of all, I'd like to welcome the Palmyra Township residents, property owners, and whoever else is here tonight. It's nice to see everyone here tonight. This evening, we will review the proposed budget for 2025. Any town property owner or resident is welcome to comment on the budget during the public comment period. Town residents will also be eligible to vote on the budget proposal. Since the board was elected in April 2023, we have worked towards improving the quality of life in the town. We have adopted ordinances prohibiting through trucks on most town roads except for Little Prairie Road, and we have adjusted some speed limits. In 2023, the town of Palmyra town taxes went down 15.8%. The town arranged to have Hooper Road chipped and sealed last year in an attempt to extend the life of the road for approximately another 7 years. The town also worked jointly with the village to pulverize and pave Blue Spring Lake Drive around the triangle. We have installed or replaced over 120 signs that were unreadable or in need of new signage. These include road signs and road name signs. This spring, Supervisor Martins negotiated insurance coverage for the town, and after Rural Insurance decided not to renew the town's coverage. Rob spent endless hours organizing the new coverage, and I would like to thank him for his huge contribution. Beginning early next year, Rob will also serve as the town's negotiator for renewal of the village town fire and EMS contract. Supervisor Gajewski, who has also served as chair of our highway committee, prepared the request for proposals, documentation for upcoming road projects, and orchestrated the bid process for the projects. Super Gajewski has worked countless hours putting together various road projects and also putting a budget together. I would like to thank him for his immense dedication to the town. This year, the town experienced unprecedented amounts of trees down. The heavy spring rains and winds caused multiple trees to fall, some over roadways and making the roads impassable. Numerous calls and contacts came in throughout the spring and summer from the sheriff's office, residents, and other ways, informing the town of fallen trees. The town has budgeted $25,000 for tree maintenance, which was used to cover the downed trees on Tamarack Road during the winter months. With the spring and summer tree problems, the cost for cutting and removing trees exceeded $168,000. In July, the town did obtain a line of credit of $600,000. The town drew $150,000 from the loan to help cover the unexpected cost of tree removal, and more recently drew an additional $92,000 to cover the cost of Blue Spring Lake Drive and the desperately needed Little Prairie Road shoulder repairs. The balance of the borrowed funds are planned for additional road repairs. Proposed road repairs and costs will be discussed in detail by Supervisor Gajewski. The town board's goal is to be transparent as possible in all town matters. Feel free to contact any board member with questions or comments. At this time, I refer you to Supervisor Gajewski, who has worked on this budget proposal for months. There will be an opportunity for questions and comments after the presentation. We ask that you limit your comments and questions to 3 minutes to allow us to move forward with the meeting in a reasonable time. This time I'll turn it over to Josh. Is that long enough?
When batteries aren't your friend, right? So, as Frank said, we put together a presentation for those of you who came last year. This is kind of the exact same thing with different information in it. Anybody that's coming for the first time this year, hold on to your seat. We're going to go through a whole bunch of different items, all related to budget. Tax bills, the town tax levy, the requirements of the town board to put a budget together, the goals that we had as a board this year for 2025. We'll go through the projections through the rest of this year, the proposed budget for 25, and then the steps for the approval of the levy, as well as the budget. As Frank also said, when we get done asking questions, the people here, everybody, whether resident or not, will be able to make a comment, pose a question, what have you. So, tax bills, again, are made up of multiple taxing jurisdictions. The town has the ability to tax for what it needs, as well as the county, the school district, the VOTEC, and potentially folks that are part of a special tax district. Each one of those entities has the ability to create and assign their own mill rate. Here's an example of a property tax bill that hopefully everybody is used to. Again, we're talking about the town of Palmyra tax amount tonight. So in this case, we've got a tax bill from last year, which is the 2023 net tax amount that Frank also said went down 15.8% between 2022 and 2023 taxes. The amount that was paid last year for this example property to the town was $483.58. We're going to go back to this later in the presentation, but again, we're here tonight to talk about the town of Palmyra tax, not Jefferson County, not the school district, not WCTC or Gateway or whoever you may be a part of as far as those districts. So again, the tax levy is the amount of revenue that the town can collect from property owners to help offset its operational costs. Each jurisdiction has its own specific levy, which makes up your total town tax bill. The next part we're going to refer to is the levy limit. A levy limit is the amount of money maximum that the town can collect from all of the parcels within the township itself. State statute regulates what's called a levy limit, and that is the maximum that we can accrue on any calendar year. This year, we are asking to exceed that levy limit. And then finally, the mill rate is a numerical factor that takes the amount of property value and the expenses that we are trying to collect from you, or revenues trying to collect from you, and it's a numerical factor that gets assessed or allocated to each parcel based on the value of the parcel. Each parcel has its own individualized assessment. Okay, so everybody's tax bill is going to be slightly different. The requirements of the town every year is that we have to put together a balanced budget for the upcoming year. Again, the state provides the town with the levy limit worksheet. There are sections that we put our expenses in. They help to determine ultimately what our maximum levy is. It includes our expenses, again, debt service, any increase in the overall net new construction of the community, which means if you put a deck on your house, it has a value. That value gets added to what our overall community value is, okay? This year it was 2.06% that the community actually grew in property value. So, the town again has requested to be allowed to exceed the levy limit. That's gonna happen here tonight. The electors that are here have the opportunity to say yes or no to that increase. Additionally, the property tax levy itself, whether it's the exceeded amount or the amount that the levy limit worksheet allows us to go up to, has to be adopted by the town electors. Finally, the town board takes that revenue stream and says, okay, what are we going to do with that, and adopt a budget. The budget goals that we set out for this year meaning 2025, is that we wanted to continue to provide the level of service that the town residents have come accustomed to receiving. We wanted to allocate funding towards pavement maintenance and pavement construction. We also wanted to allocate additional funding to the emergency management account, and finally, allow the electors an opportunity to choose pay-as-we-go funding or opportunities through issuance of debt service. Revenue highlights, meaning things that kind of are the big bold numbers between 2024's budget and 2025's budget. We're asking for a total property tax levy of $673,057. That does include the exceedance amount of $145,037. Additionally, this year, going into 2025 again, we are anticipating getting $31,000 and some change of funding through the local road improvement program. It's a reimbursement, okay? We'll get into what the project is for exactly, but it's for a portion of Tamarack Road, from the village limits, the first 4,300 feet as you're going south out of town, or into town, I should say. That, again, is a reimbursement. We expend the funds for the project. They reimburse us after the fact. Another item is $20,000 worth of revenue that's listed in the line item detail for the airport. We've recently come into an issue or a situation where the legislature of Wisconsin did away with property tax, personal property tax, okay? As a result, all of the privately owned hangars at the airport have their own appraised value. Because the town of Palmyra owns the airport, we are the landowner, and we will be receiving the bill for the improved value of those hangars. We've talked about this with the airport commission, and we anticipate this is kind of a one side and the other. We're gonna get $20,000 from the airport, really the hangar owners, and we're also gonna expend the same amount when we pay the tax bill. Last but not least, $378,855 of proceeds from debt service. This again is to complete the repaving of that 4,300 feet of Tamarack Road. Revenues kind of at a glance. This is just a summary. It was included in the budget notice that we sent out, or posted I should say. And it goes through categorically, these are the items that we have to include per statute in that notice. So expense highlights. We're anticipating that there's going to be an $11,913 increase in fire and EMS costs for 2025 as per the contract that was signed in 2022. That cost has gone from, in 2022, $155,000 or so, up to $250,000 for 2025. That amount, for those who have been here for 3 years running now, the board previous to this one requested $150,000 levy exceedance to help back fund the increased cost for fire and EMS. It was denied in 2022 for 2023. This board requested $250,000 in this room last year. That was also denied. And this year, we are back to $145,000 again that we're requesting to exceed the levy limit for. Other highlights, $3,000 in reduced election expenses. We hope next year is nothing like this year for a whole bunch of reasons. $2,200 in increased insurance costs. Frank mentioned that we were non-renewed by Rural Mutual Insurance. We had to shop insurance in about 90 days, 60 days time period.
60, roughly.
So the policy that we have, this is property, liability, I believe work comp, all included. There's going to be an increase in 2025.
I mean, the increase is there, but we also have better coverage than we had under rural. So there's a value there for the increase.
And again, the next biggest piece of our budget every single year, Public Works. Okay? Public Works includes a lot of different things within our operations. I'm going to see if this actually works. So in 2025, we're requesting an additional $4,800 in general highway maintenance. Our line item detail, if you look at it, is a little confusing because one says highway maintenance and one says highway construction. Okay? Maintenance of the pavement actually goes into construction. Maintenance of the general right-of-ways goes into general highway maintenance. So there's an additional request in there. $3,000 more in ice and snow. That's your snow plowing, your salting, your brining, all of those types of activities. $13,400 in roadside mowing. $5,800 in additional highway patching. The big one, obviously, is $410,000 that's proposed for us to expend on repaving Tamarack Road again. And it includes a list of preventative maintenance that was actually approved about 2 months ago, portion of which got done. Anybody driving around saw some crack sealing, Young Road, Zion, Pine, those types. We'll get into that again. But that's a combined cost for the completion of that scope of work in 2025, as well as the repaving of Tamarack. $25,800 in tree service, additional compared to this year, so the round number is $50,000, and $45,000 in emergency management. This year we had budgeted $5,000. That emergency management fund was something that prior to this year never existed. We broke down a whole bunch of the overall public works costs into various different line items last year to be able to track them this year. Obviously with the trees and everything else, that $5,000 didn't go very far. The general discussion with the board on this item specifically, there's a $50,000 line item in the budget, emergency management. It's a one-time funding, okay? If we don't use any of that funding next year, 2026 should say zero, okay? If we use 10,000, 2026 would say 10,000, okay? So because of what we've experienced as a board and in the financial ups and downs of all sorts of things related to storms, not only that, if anybody remembers this year, we had to close Island Road for a section of time. We had to close, I believe, Tower Road at one section of time because of washouts. So it's all of the things related to weather anomalies, if you want to call it that, okay? Continuing on, this is the other half of that 20,000 that I talked about a couple minutes ago. We anticipate that the expense is going to be recovered as a revenue on the other side of the budget. And then $113,700 more in debt service. So two different debt service numbers, and you're saying, Josh, that doesn't match. Is it another typo? No, it is not. We are anticipating borrowing money in 2025 to pave Tamarack. We also have to pay back the money that was borrowed in 2024. Okay? This year we had about $54,000 worth of debt service payment. Next year we're anticipating it's going to be $165,000. Very similar summary on the expense side of things as what we just went through on the revenues. You'll notice again, this big $871,000 number, okay, that's the 410 we just talked about, included with a whole bunch of other things. You may say, what's included in that big number? So, public works, snow plowing, mowing, patching, general maintenance, garbage and recycling is included in there, and street lighting. Going back up a little bit, the general government line item includes the board's wages, the clerk's wages, election costs, general office supplies and expenses, our insurance, legal costs, and payroll taxes. Culture, recreation, and education, I got questions on that. What exactly are we educating and culturing? It is park and rec donation that the town gives $5,000. I shouldn't even call it a donation, it's an expense offset. The village runs a park and rec program that the children of the town of Palmyra participate in. The town funds $5,000 towards that in the hopes that there's not going to become a village fee and a town fee for all of the different activities run through the park and rec. We also supply, I think it's $300 to the Legion. Health and Human Services, that is our dog and stray cat program and pickup through the Humane Society, as well as the cemetery operations. Public safety is pretty straightforward. It's fire and EMS coverage through the village. And then another thing, just to point out for everybody, this miscellaneous expense amount, okay? Without losing you in the weeds, hopefully. We took $150,000 that was in our checking account and we moved it into a high yield savings account. I'm gonna say it was June-ish, okay? That amount gets tracked as an expense because it left the checking account. Later in the year, we took 125 of that 150 and we put it back in the checking account to help pay our bills. The point behind that is the LGIP, Local Government Investment Pool, is this high yield savings account. We were at about 5.3% APY on that. It was free interest money rather than having it in our 0.05% interest bearing checking account. So you'll see it as a revenue and you'll see it as an expense, but we have to track the money in and out of the checkbook. It's not actually an expense, it's still the town's money. It just moved from one spot to another. And then at the bottom, other financing uses. This is a combination of technically 3 different things. Money that we had budgeted that we were hopeful we could put in what's called the general fund balance, meaning money for another day to help cover things like trees falling down or extra snow plowing or a road washing out. It's also that retrieval net of taking 155, sending it to the LGIP and only bringing back 125. We have to balance that 25. It didn't disappear, we just have to track it. Above and beyond that is what was referred to as ARPA. ARPA was the American Recovery Plan Act. Post-COVID, local government got individual allocations across the country to help bolster local economy, help with projects they may not be able to fund because of lost revenue through all sorts of things, quite frankly, generally don't apply to townships in Wisconsin because a lot of them don't have a big, gigantic industrial center that was shut down during COVID. Getting into roads. So we've applied for a number of different things in the last 12 to 18 months. The first thing was started by the prior board. It was a bipartisan infrastructure law. Initiated in the spring of 2023, the application was put in the summer of 2023, and we found out right after our budget meeting last year that we did not get any funding allocated through the BIL grant. We talked about that we've got the local road improvement program, TRIP funding, town road improvement. It's all part of the same program through WISDOT. We applied last fall. We were awarded $31,000, again as a cost reimbursement for the Tamarack Road project. We've applied for supplemental funding through the town road improvement program for Island Road. We wanted to do improvements not only to the drainage, but also to the pavement on Island Road, and we did not get any funding. We also applied for ARIP funding. There was 2 different sections of this. The first one was a $50 million award, which I believe they had $190 million worth of projects across the state that were applied for. We did not get any of the funding. That was for Thayer Road, from State Highway 106 all the way up to Maring Road. It's going to be pulverized paved, drainage improvements, culvert replacements, those types of things. We applied for an urban forestry catastrophic storm grant through the DNR this summer, trying to recoup some of our tree funding. Come to find out, Palmyra is too small and we didn't meet the population threshold as a minimum. Last but not least, we also have the second tranche of funding, which is $100 million, and I believe now they've got $258 million worth of projects that have been applied for the agricultural road improvement program. The whole crux behind that grant is to try to improve roads that are currently listed Class B weight restricted. And it takes into account a whole bunch of things somebody would never think. How much agricultural product in tonnage? What's the value of it? How many trips are those agricultural producers not going to have to take because they could go up and down Thayer Road rather than using an unrestricted road, okay? It was one of the goofiest applications I've ever done, but we tried it a second time with a little bit of tweaking from a consultant, and we're hopeful that at the end of this year, late December, we'll hear back whether or not we gain funding through that or not.
That's, excuse me, that's a 90-10 split, so they pay 90%. We get it, so that would be good.
So I touched on this already, but what exactly are we doing with this $410,000? $220,000 is the current estimate to repave 4,300 linear feet of Tamarack Road. We've got 37 miles of road in this community, as a point of reference for you. So we're looking at not quite a mile and 220 grand. With the LRIP reimbursement, that net cost will be roughly $189,000 to the town that we have to pay if the project moves forward. Back to the scope that was approved this year is on this side of the PowerPoint here. Carlin Trail, there's a 2,000-foot segment away from where the village limits is, down by A1, Creative. There's a 1,000-foot section we're looking at doing chip sealing and crack filling. Parkview Circle in its entirety, the circle and the little stem that comes out to Highway H, will be crack filled and chip sealed. Pine Drive, its entirety, from Zion to Highway H, crack filled, chip sealed. Blue Spring Lake Drive, this one gets fun. Blue Spring Lake Drive, or the roads around the lake, let's put it this way, are actually broken up into 5 different segments, if you could believe it. Blue Spring Lake Drive technically goes from what I'm going to call the South Fork of the triangle out to Highway H. South Shore Drive goes from what I'm going to call the Northeast Fork of the triangle all the way out to Highway H. Both of those roads were part of the scope to get crack filled and chip sealed. Young Road, the town has a cooperative agreement with LaGrange. We take care of Young Road between Highway H and Tamarack. There's 2 other segments, technically 3 other segments of Young Road. That right-of-way is split 50-50 between LaGrange and the town of Palmyra. So instead of only crack sealing half the road on one year and somebody else doing something on the other half in a different segment, we broke it up and we maintain the section between Tamarack and Highway H. Zion Road from Highway 59 to Pine Drive, same thing, chip seal, crack fill. Rough estimate of $286,000 to complete that work. It is quantity based. When we bid that out, we did err on the side of caution within a few hundred square yards on each one of these roads to make sure that when it actually comes back and bill shows up, we weren't so close that, oops, they did 3 extra square yards and now we don't have the funding for it. Moving into the future, anybody have a crystal ball? I will take it. But 2026, we are hopeful to get the funding for Thayer Road, that project, $465,000 to repair Thayer Road from Mering to 106. If we get the ARIP funding, it could provide $420,000 of that, which would mean the town would be on the hook for about $46,000. Otherwise, at some other point in time, we're going to need $465,000 to fix that road, the drainage